What's up, guys? It is Wild Card Week, and we are coming down with the Steelers and the Ravens. Matt Brown, Mo Nuora, coming to you here for the lines. As we sit right now, this thing, 9.5, 10. There is a flat 9 at Fanatics. So if you're looking to back the Ravens, there's 1-9 left in the market out there, but as high as 10 elsewhere. 43.5, the prevailing total here in this one. Mo, this thing opened at 8.5. I was live on air when it opened at 8.5, and I was like, hey, if you're trying to get this in a teaser, you better do this in like the next half hour, because this is not going to stay in this range. And sure enough, by the time I was off air, it had gotten out of that 8.5 range, gotten into 9.5 already. People starting to flood money in there on the Ravens. What do you think here as the Steelers head on the road to Baltimore?
I mean, I think this one seems pretty fair on the side. I always thought the Ravens were undervalued in the prior matchups. I bet them both times. Mixed results, obviously. I do wonder about the over, though. I was looking at that pretty hard. That's probably the closest thing to a bet that I have not pulled the trigger on at this point. I mean, the Ravens have just been such an over team. Third highest team total over rate, sixth highest team total over margin, according to what Cleve TA posted on Twitter. So I think that tracks with what we've seen all year. This team was scoring in the 40s pretty much at will for a lot of the season. And you have a Steelers team that they want to run the ball, but will they have that option in this game? I don't know. I mean, you know what the line is. You know what ends up happening when the Steelers are playing from behind. The Russ Moon balls are either going to be chunk plays or quick 3-and-outs. You have a Ravens team, though, that has improved on defense. I don't know how much of that is real. It's been getting a lot of air time for sure lately. Statistically, they've been very good the second half of the season. I don't know how much I trust it. I think the first half schedule was including a lot more tough offenses for them. The Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals. And the second half, you know, they're facing the Browns. They're facing some of their weaker opponents. We know that that defensive stats are often a product of the offenses you face. So maybe things got a lot easier. Maybe it's a combination. I guess likely it's a combination. I do somewhat worry about these injuries too. I mean,
Zay Flowers is out. Yeah, that we should mention that. Yeah, sorry about off the top. Ravens, Zay Flowers out on the Steelers side. Really pretty healthy actually. Right guard Mason McCormick is questionable, but that's about it on their side of things.
Well, I don't know what's going on with their kicker as well here. I mean, Chris Boswell. I don't want to put any stock into a kicker really, but he's probably the best kicker in the NFL. I mean, top 3 for sure. So that might actually matter. It is. I think everyone just maybe artificially deflating this. Cold AFC North teams traditionally play a lot of lower scoring games, but I just don't know if that fits this year, man. I do think taking away Zay Flowers, obviously, like that might be the only player in this pass catching core that is ever keeping a defensive coordinator up at night. Like I know Mark Andrews has recovered somewhat and looked closer to his old self. He's obviously a monster in the red zone. I don't know that he's that big of a weapon between the 20s. I don't even know if Zay Flowers keeps anybody up at night, but he's better, more talented, more threatening than all these other guys. So those are kind of what's keeping me off it right now. But I am eyeing the total for anybody who maybe, in case the line moves, it's sitting 43.5 right now. I think it's pretty much been 43.5 all week.
Yeah, I look at this and I try to figure out, okay, how does Pittsburgh move the ball? Because we have kind of this pass funnel defense in the Ravens, which you can't run against them at all. And traditionally, it's like, okay, well, we're going to pass against them because that's the weakness of this team. As you mentioned, whether there's some noise there or not, it does look like the pass defense has gotten a little bit better, at least anyway, over the course of the season. And so now you come in against this, like, you know, overall number one run defense basically in the NFL. You got Pittsburgh, who doesn't run the ball efficiently anyway, right? And so now you're doing something you do poorly against something that is the super strength of the defense that you're coming into. So now you're forced into passing. Well, it goes to what you just said. Okay, so we know what Russ and them have to do whenever it comes to the passing game, and they have to get chunk plays in order to be successful, right? Because they're just not a offense that matriculates the ball down the field. It just doesn't happen. They have to have these kind of explosives in order to move the ball and get into scoring position. And so Baltimore does run a lot of man, right? I mean, I think that's like top 7-ish in the league in man coverage. And so Pickens should find himself in some decent one-on-one situations for some of those 50-50 balls. Maybe they work a little bit, I just don't know, Mo. I don't know how often you can do that, right? Like, I just don't know how often. I mean, even if you connect on 3 of those over the course of a game, right? I mean, is that enough when you can't do anything on the ground and you don't really have anybody else in the receiving corps that anybody respects at all, right? Like, that's the thing that I just can't get to here is I'm like, what is the route to the Steelers scoring enough points to keep up with the Ravens doing probably whatever they want to on offense? I mean, certainly they should be able to run against this Steelers run defense, which has really fallen off a cliff. So I don't know. What is the path of success here for Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I think it just involves Russ making better decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, he moved the ball the last time these teams played. Like, I had the Ravens in that game, so I watched a bunch of it, and it was Island game, if I'm remembering correctly. So, yeah, I just was pretty much watching the whole game. I actually thought the Steelers probably played better than the final score. They definitely moved the ball, but there was, I think there was a fumble on the 10 or something. They had some poor turnovers, and yeah, I think if Russ just needs to take care of the ball and play a bit better, they can move the ball. I still think the secondary is beatable, but yeah, it's not something I'm really looking to bank on.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like kind of hesitant on pulling the trigger. And like you said, I also get worried that the Ravens might take the air out of the ball. But on the other hand, Derrick Henry's one of those guys. When you're taking the air out of the ball, he can still take it 60.
Here's the thing. This is what's going to happen. I can tell you exactly. If you don't end up betting the over, I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be 6 points from getting there. And they're going to keep Derrick Henry in the game, even though he should have been out of the game 4 minutes before. And he's going to house 164 yards because that's what he does. And the game's going to get over, and you're going to be like, "See, I knew it."
You mean like he did against the Browns?
Yes. That's what I'm saying. It's just like it's unbelievable. Like, I mean, like, it happens so often with this guy. Going back to the Pickens thing, guys, I just at least want to bring this to your attention with those out there. I mean, if you believe that the Steelers will try to take advantage of this man coverage that the Ravens run a lot of, if you do believe, I know Pickens is as volatile as they come, but the books have basically slotted him as like that volatile dude. It's 53.5 for his yards, right? And so it's like that middling of like, okay, we know at any point this dude can go for 110, but also he could like airball, right? And so like it's kind of like they put it in that area right there. My only suggestion would be if you're playing the 53.5, play a 70, play a 90, like, because it's like it's either going to work or it's not, and so I would ladder that for sure. He's like the perfect ladder candidate is Pickens, because 5 catches could equal 90 yards for a dude like him, could equal 110 yards for a guy like him. And so that's where I would at least be looking from a prop standpoint in this thing. It's like, all right, you're either in on Pickens or you're out on Pickens. And if you're in on Pickens, just understand that the volatility has him to where he could literally double the output of what the line is set at.
I definitely expect some kind of dead cat bounce here. I mean, how can you not? He embarrassed himself on national TV, and I think he's going to be ready to go for this game. He's a guy who he likes to run his mouth. So guy like that has a performance like that, I would fully expect him to come to play here.
And Mo, just your quick thoughts, last thoughts here on Baltimore. If you're willing to lay the 9, right? Are you willing to lay 12.5? Are you willing to lay 13? Like, are you willing to play some alts as well? Because it's kind of like at that point, you're almost just saying Baltimore is just too much for the Steelers team, right? And if that's the case, couldn't this very well end up being a 17-point game?
Yeah, I have to admit that I'm scared of the voodoo. Especially after that first game where I laid 6 or something with the Ravens, or 4. I don't remember what it was, but then they lose outright when they're like plus 3 yards per play or something absolutely absurd. The voodoo scares me, but yeah, the Ravens at home are also very scary. So I think maybe yes. I wouldn't go too crazy here. It's still a Steelers team that has a lot of veterans, has been in this spot before. Not going to crumble, I wouldn't think, in a way that like we've seen some rookie quarterbacks and, you know, a team like the Browns last year that just massively overachieved. I think the Steelers overachieved, but did they overachieve to the point where they're just in a mile over their heads? I don't know. I could still see this being a close game. That's why I still think this line is probably about where it should be.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, guys, as high as 10 out there, as low as 9, so be sure and shop around as always. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button. Help us boost this here video or this here audio, whichever way you are taking us in. Do appreciate it. And good luck on all your Steelers and Ravens bets.